Hello everyone, my name is Leo. I am 26 years old. I live in a beautiful place, but 5 months ago, my world felt very small. Back then, I could not speak one full sentence in English. I could not even say, "How are you?" without stopping to think for a long time. I felt very lost, and I felt very sad. Today, I want to tell you how I changed my life forever. I learned to speak English in just 5 months. I did not use expensive classes, and I did not buy any fancy books. I did not travel to a different country to learn. I used a simple system, and it worked like magic. This is not just my story, this is your story, too. Have you ever felt shy or embarrassed because of your English? Have you ever felt stuck while others moved forward? If your answer is yes, then please listen to me. I was exactly where you are right now. I promise if you listen to my full journey, you will know exactly what to do. You will know how to find your voice. My journey did not start with a big smile. It started with a very big failure. This mistake changed everything for me. It was a moment that hurt my heart, but it also opened my eyes. I always wanted to work for a famous company. My dream was to be a great architect. I loved drawing big buildings. I worked day and night to be the best I could be. Finally, after years of hard work, my big chance arrived. I applied for a job at a huge firm in London. One morning, I saw a new email. It said, "Congratulations, Leo. You are selected for an interview." I was so happy. I jumped up and down in my room. I imagined my new life in a big city. I thought about a good salary and meeting many new friends, but then the interview happened. I remember that day so well. I opened my computer and joined the video call. There were 3 people on the screen. They were all native English speakers. They started talking, and my heart started beating very fast. It felt like their voices were moving at 100 miles per hour. I could not understand anything they asked me. They asked the first question, "Leo, can you tell us about yourself?" I felt a big panic inside. I knew the answer in my head, but the words would not come out of my mouth. I said, yes, I am. Buildings. I do drawing many houses. Good, I am very good." They looked at each other. There was a long, cold silence. That silence felt like a heavy weight on my chest. They asked another question, but I just stared at the screen. At the end, one of them smiled sadly and said, "Thank you for your time, Leo." I knew what that meant. I had failed the most important test of my life. I did not lose the job because I was a bad architect. I lost it because I could not speak. That day, I learned the truth. English is not just a school subject. English is the key to my dreams, and at that moment, I did not have that key. I felt so much shame. I felt angry at myself for waiting so long to learn. But that night, I made a very big decision. I promised myself I would learn English, and I would learn it fast. I was ready to fight for my future. I was ready to find the secret. But how would I do it? Would I go to a boring class? No, I knew there was a better way. Wait until you hear the first thing I did, because it is the opposite of what most people tell you to do. Do you want to see how I started? I walked away from my computer that day with tears in my eyes. The room felt very quiet, and the world felt very big and scary. I had worked so hard to be a good architect. I knew how to design tall buildings and beautiful homes. But in that interview, I felt like a small child who could not speak. I was a professional, but without English, I was invisible. Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever felt like you have a treasure inside you, but no one can see it because of your language? That night, I sat by my window and looked at the moon. I asked myself, why is this so hard? Why can I not speak? I looked at my bookshelf. I saw expensive English books from a class I took last year. I remembered those classes. The teacher would give us long lists of words to remember. We studied grammar rules for hours and hours. We learned about nouns and verbs and tenses. But when the interviewers asked me a simple question, all those rules stayed in my books. They did not help my mouth move. I realized something very important that night. Expensive classes were not the answer for me. Learning English is like learning to ride a bike. You can read a book about a bike, but you must get on it to ride. I did not need more grammar rules. I did not need more boring lists. I needed a way to use English in my real life. I needed a system that felt natural, not like a test. I looked at my bank account. I did not have much money, so I could not pay for a private teacher. I will do this on my own, I whispered to the dark room. I will find a way to speak without fear. I decided to give myself 5 months, only 5 months to change my life. The first thing I had to do was stop making the biggest mistake. Most people think they need thousands of new words. I thought the same thing. I thought, if I learn 2,000 words, I will be a master. But I was wrong. I already knew many words, but I could not use them. It is like having many bricks, but not knowing how to build a wall. I had the bricks, but I had no glue. So, for the first 15 days of my journey, I did something very strange. I did not learn any new words at all. My friends thought I was crazy. They said, "Leo, how can you learn if you don't study new things?" But I had a plan. I was going to learn how to use what I already had in my brain. I started with something I call the survival list. These were sentences for my daily life. I wrote down 50 simple things I needed to say every day, like, "Can you help me?" or "I am learning English." I wanted these sentences to be a part of me. I wanted them to come out of my mouth like a song. But how did I practice them? And what was the secret trick I used in the shower every morning? You will not believe how much my life changed in just 2 weeks. Are you ready to hear the shower secret? The first 15 days of my new journey were very special. I did not open a single grammar book, and I did not try to learn big, difficult words. I realized that the biggest mistake people make is thinking they need more words, but the truth is, I already knew hundreds of words. I just did not know how to use them. So, for the first 2 weeks, I focused only on what was already in my head. I sat down with a piece of paper and made my survival sentence list. I thought about what I actually need to say to people every single day. I wrote down 50 very simple sentences for real life. For example, I wrote, "Hi, how are you? And can you please repeat that?" I also wrote, "I don't understand yet, and I am learning English, and I need a coffee, please." These were my tools for survival. Every single morning, I did something very important. I read these 50 sentences out loud. I did not read them just once or twice. I read the whole list 10 times every morning. At first, my tongue felt very slow and heavy. It felt like I was trying to speak with a mouth full of stones. But after 5 days, something amazing happened. Those sentences became automatic. I could say them without thinking at all. My mouth knew exactly what to do. Then I started my favorite secret, speaking to myself in English. This is one of the most powerful things I have ever done. Whenever I was alone, I spoke out loud. In the morning, I had a private classroom in my shower. I would say, "I am taking a shower. The water is very hot. I feel very relaxed." When I made my breakfast, I would talk to my eggs. I said, "I am making eggs. I like eggs. They are very easy to cook." At first, I felt a little bit silly. I thought, "Leo, why are you talking to your breakfast?" But then I realized this was the best way to learn. No one could hear me, and no one could judge me. I could make mistakes and just laugh at them. In just 1 week, my brain started to think in English. I also practiced 5 special sentences every day with a twist. I chose sentences from movies or real people talking. I did not just read them, I copied the people exactly. I repeated them 10 times with the same emotion. If the actor was happy, I was happy. If the actor was fast, I was fast. This helped me fix my accent and sound like a real person, not a robot. By the end of those 15 days, I felt like a new man. I stopped translating words in my head. I could say basic things with a big smile and a lot of confidence, but this was only the beginning of the magic. After 15 days, I was ready for the real practice. I was ready to start having real conversations. But how do you talk to people when you are still a beginner? How do you answer questions fast without getting stuck? I found a secret method that made my brain work like a computer. Do you want to see how I did it? After my first 15 days, I felt like a brand new person. I could say my survival sentences with a big smile, and I felt much more brave. But deep down, I knew this was only the first step on a long road. I did not want to just say hello or I need coffee. I wanted to have real, deep conversations with people. I wanted to understand native speakers without my brain feeling like a slow, tired turtle. I wanted to speak fluently, just like the people I saw on TV. I needed a way to make speaking feel as natural as breathing. So I created a new plan, and this plan changed everything for me. If you follow this plan, you will improve faster than you ever thought possible. I realized that when I tried to speak, my brain was very slow. I knew many words, but I could not put them together quickly enough. I needed to train my brain to be like a fast computer. I started using a method that I now call the question and answer method. This method is very simple, but it is very powerful for your mind. Here is exactly how it works. First, you ask yourself a very easy question in English. Second, you must answer it immediately, without thinking too much or worrying. Third, you repeat the process, but you add one more detail to your answer each time. Let me show you an example of how I did it. I started with a very easy question. I asked Leo, "What did you do today?" At first, my answer was very short. I just said, "I worked." But then I forced my brain to say a little bit more. I said I worked on my project. Then I said, "I worked on my project for 3 hours." Finally, I said, "I worked on my project for 3 hours, and then I took a break to have coffee." Every time I answered, I added more details to the story. This trained my brain to think in English. It stopped me from hesitating or feeling stuck. I did this with everything. I asked, "What did you eat for breakfast today?" First answer, "I ate eggs." Next, "I ate eggs and toast." Then I ate eggs, toast, and a sweet banana. I even said, "I ate a big breakfast because I was very hungry and I love eating in the morning." I did this every single day for at least 30 minutes. My speaking speed improved so much. My sentences became long and strong. Best of all, I finally stopped translating in my head, but there was still one big problem I had to fix. My pronunciation was still a little bit difficult for people to understand. Even when I spoke fast, I still sounded like a foreigner with a very strong accent. I wanted to sound natural, just like a native speaker. So I found the best secret in the world. I call it the echo technique. It is the best way to improve your voice without a teacher or a classroom. Do you want to know how I started sounding like a native speaker in just a few weeks? I was speaking faster now, but there was still one big problem. My voice did not sound like the people on the TV. My accent was very thick and heavy. It felt like I was carrying a heavy bag in my mouth while I talked. When I tried to talk to people, they would look confused. They would say, "Excuse me, can you say that again?" It made me feel very small and very shy. I wanted to sound natural. I wanted to sound like I belonged in a room full of English speakers. I did not want people to focus on my accent. I wanted them to hear my ideas. So I discovered a secret tool. It is called the echo technique. Some people call it shadowing. This is the best way to train your mouth to move like a native speaker. It is very easy and very fun. It is like playing a game of follow the leader with your voice. First, you find a short video of a native speaker you like. It could be a simple story, a movie clip, or a person talking about their day. You listen to just one sentence. Then, you say that sentence out loud immediately. You do not wait for them to finish the whole story. You try to speak at the exact same time as the person in the video. You become their echo, you copy their speed, and you copy their pauses. Most importantly, you copy their emotion. English is not just words on a page. English is like music. It has a rhythm and a beautiful melody. Sometimes the voice goes up high, sometimes the voice goes down low. I started doing this every day for 20 minutes. I chose a video of a man talking about his favorite food. He was so happy when he talked about pizza. I copied his happy voice exactly. I said, "I love pizza. It is so delicious," exactly like he did. I did this 50 times with the same sentence. My face muscles started to feel very tired. Did you know you use different muscles to speak English? It is like going to the gym for your mouth. I was building my English muscles every single morning. After 2 weeks, I recorded my own voice on my phone. I listened to the recording, and I could not believe my ears. I sounded so much better. My voice sounded clear, and I sounded very confident. My friends noticed it too. They said, "Leo, your voice sounds different. What is your secret?" I just smiled. I knew my hard work was finally working. I was finally sounding like the person I always wanted to be, but speaking well is only one part of the big puzzle. What happens when a native speaker talks back to you very fast? How do you understand every word without getting a headache? I found a special way to train my ears, and it is not what you think. It is the story method. It changed how I listen forever. Do you want to know how I learned to understand native speakers, even when they talk like a fast train? Now that my voice was sounding clear and strong, I faced a new challenge. Whenever I listened to a native speaker, it felt like my brain was trying to catch a fast-moving train. I could understand some words, but the whole meaning would slip away. I realized that I was still translating everything in my head. A person would say something, and my brain would translate it to my own language, think of an answer, and then translate it back to English. This process was too slow. It made me feel tired and confused. I needed to learn how to think in English. But how do you change the way your brain works? I found the answer in something very simple: children's stories. I call this the story method. I started listening to very easy stories for children every single day. I did not choose stories with difficult words. I chose stories about animals, adventures, and simple life lessons. I listened to the same story 20 times. The first time I listened, I only understood about 50%, but by the 10th time, I understood every single word. By the 20th time, I didn't have to think at all. The English words just went straight into my heart. I was not translating anymore. I was simply understanding. This is the secret of the story method. You must listen to the same thing until it becomes a part of you. I also started narrating my life like a storybook. When I walked to the park, I would say in my head, "Leo is walking to the park. The sun is shining. He sees a little dog. The dog is very happy." By doing this, I was building a bridge between my actions and English words. I stopped seeing a dog and thinking of the word in my language. I saw a dog and the English word dog appeared instantly. I spent 1 hour every day just listening to these simple stories while I was cleaning or walking. My ears became very sharp. I started to hear the small sounds that I missed before. I learned how native speakers connect their words together. They don't say, "What are you doing?" They say, "What you doin'?" Because I listened so much, my brain finally learned these secrets. 5 months were almost over. I felt like a different person. I was not the shy boy who failed the interview anymore. I was a man who could speak, listen, and think in a new language. But there was one final test waiting for me. I decided to call that big company in London again. I wanted a second chance. My heart was pounding in my chest as I picked up the phone. Would they remember me? Would they give me another try? Or would I fail one more time? What happened next was something I never expected. The day had finally come. It was time to face my biggest fear. I stood in front of the same mirror where 5 months ago I had cried tears of failure. but today, the man looking back at me was different. My shoulders were straight, my eyes were bright. I didn't feel like a lost boy anymore. I felt like a winner. I picked up my phone and dialed the number for the big architecture firm in London. My heart was beating, but it was a happy beating, like a drum before a parade. A lady answered the phone. "Hello, London Design Partners, how can I help you?" she said very quickly. Before I would have panicked, I would have hung up the phone, but this time I smiled. I used my echo technique voice. "Hello, my name is Leo. I had an interview 5 months ago. I would like to speak with the manager, please." I sounded clear. I sounded professional. She didn't ask me to repeat myself. She said, "One moment, please." A minute later, a man's voice came on the line. It was Mr. Thompson. He was the same man who had looked so disappointed during my first interview. "Hello, this is Mr. Thompson," he said. "Hello, Mr. Thompson. This is Leo. I am the architect who could not speak English 5 months ago," I said with a little laugh. "I have worked very hard every day since then. I am calling to ask for 10 minutes of your time, just 10 minutes to show you who I really am." There was a silence on the other end. My breath caught in my throat. Then I heard him chuckle. "Leo, I remember you. You had great drawings, but you were very quiet. Okay, you have 10 minutes. Come to our office tomorrow at 10 o'clock. The next morning, I walked into that big, glass building. I wasn't looking at the floor anymore. I was looking at the beautiful ceilings and the busy people. I walked into the meeting room, and there were the same 3 people. They looked surprised to see me. I didn't wait for them to ask a question. I started first. "Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to see you again. Before we look at my drawings, I want to tell you a story." I told them about my 5-month journey. I told them about talking to my eggs in the morning. I told them about the story method and the echo technique. I spoke for 10 minutes without stopping. I used simple words, but I used them with power. I used my hands to talk. I laughed. I was not a robot. I was a human being connecting with other human beings. When I finished, the room was very quiet. Mr. Thompson stood up slowly. He looked at the other 2 managers. Then, he looked at me and did something I will never forget. He started to clap his hands, then the others joined him. "Leo," he said, "in this office, we don't just build houses, we build dreams, and your dream is the strongest I have seen in a long time." He reached out his hand and gave me a big smile. "Welcome to the team, Leo." I had done it. I had turned my biggest failure into my biggest victory. But my story does not end with a job. It ends with a message for you. Do you want to know the final secret that kept me going when things got hard? And do you want to know how you can start your own journey today? Standing in that office with my new team, I realized something very powerful. Learning English did not just give me a job, it gave me a new life. It gave me the freedom to travel, the power to make new friends, and the strength to believe in myself. Now I am a successful architect in London. I speak English every day, but I never forget where I started. I never forget the boy who was afraid to say hello. I never forget the days I spent talking to my eggs and copying stories in my room. Many people ask me, "Leo, what was the most important thing you did?" They expect me to say a special word or a secret book, but my answer is always the same. The secret is not a book, and the secret is not a teacher. The secret is you. The secret is consistency. I practiced every single day for 5 months. I did not miss a day. Even when I was tired, I listened to a short story. Even when I was busy, I said my survival sentences in the shower. Consistency is like water hitting a rock. At first, nothing happens, but over time, the water breaks the rock. Your practice is the water, and your fear is the rock. If you keep going, your fear will break, and your fluency will flow. I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself 6 months from today. Imagine walking into a room and speaking English with a big smile. Imagine how proud your family will be. Imagine the doors that will open for you. This is not a dream. This can be your reality. If I can do it, you can do it too. It does not matter how old you are. It does not matter if you are a child, a student, or a grandfather. It is never too late to start your journey. Stop waiting for the perfect time. The perfect time is right now. Start with 5 minutes today. Talk to yourself. listen to a story, make a mistake and laugh at it. Mistakes are just proof that you are trying. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gives you the spark you need to start. You have a voice, and the world is waiting to hear it. Don't let fear keep you quiet.